Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Something Something podcast. My name is Eric Kasloff, and with me, as always, is Larry Sands. Party on, Larry.
Party on, Eric. Party on. I just did the little, yeah, you couldn't see it, but you heard it, right? I did the little guitar. Anyway.
You know what?
How are you? What?
You know, I was thinking about something. For our Halloween show, you should fly to Jersey or drive, and we should do a Wayne's World video podcast episode.
Oh, that would be excellent. Okay, who would you be?
Saying excellent because you thought it was excellent, or were you quoting Wayne and Garth?
Both. Actually, I didn't catch that, but as I do it, excellent. Excellent. Party on. I'm brushing the hair back of my ear. Oh, party on. Party on. Actually, who would be Wayne and who would be Garth?
Well, I'm the one. I came up with the show, so I think I would get to be Wayne.
So you would be Garth?
No, I would be Wayne.
Wait. No, I'm sorry. It broke up. You would be Garth? No, you could be Wayne. Oh, no, then I could do the weird Garth thing and stare into the camera. So I think that would work. That would be cool.
Okay.
That would be, it would be even better. No, actually, everybody, Eric, we have to plan that. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. I love that idea.
Well,
yeah.
I'm going to get into something really quick. You know what? One of the worst things about doing a podcast with one of your best friends is you can't talk about stuff you want to talk about over the phone. Because you're like, man, this is a great conversation, but I'm going to wait to say it on air. And it's
I know.
You have to do that. You called and told me a little while ago something happened on set with the movie you're filming, the shot-by-shot remake of Karate Kid Part 3. That's
right.
Something interesting happened. No. In all seriousness, explain again what movie you're making.
So I know, I know people that have kind of followed our show. Know that I'm shooting this Christian film, and it's something that I've been working on for a couple of months now. And so we are right at the end of shooting, but we've had a conflict. And so I thought we had only one day left of shooting. But as it turns out, we have to recast one of the parts.
Oh my goodness.
And so it's kind of crazy how things work out. I don't know if you've ever had that happen to you.
I've never had anything go wrong during one of my filming things, Larry. I have no clue what you're talking about. When I do it, everything goes perfect.
Well, I'm glad, and I'd love to be a part of your... Oh, wait a minute. Maybe if people can find the other podcast we talked about for Hillsborough Road, our shoot. Well, let's not just revisit that, but let's move on.
What are you talking about? Hey, we rebooted. That is no longer part of canon.
That is true. But no, so we've had to recast, and we're in the process now. Actually, just about an hour ago, before we started doing our podcast, right before I called you, I was talking with one of the producers about we've casted and we recasted, and then we're going to have to recast because of everybody's
the same part.
Schedule. Yeah, so we've cast it 3 times essentially, and so this is a big part of like going with the flow. I know we talked to past guests, and you just have to, as a creative person in particular, you have a schedule in your mind, how everything is going to go, and you have it all planned out, and you can see it, you can visualize it, all this stuff that they talk about in being positive thoughts and sending it out. And And I still believe in that, but I wholeheartedly believe that no matter how much good you put out, you have to learn to deal with what you're given, if that makes any kind of sense at all.
Totally.
And so I think it's very important for people that want to go into the creative thing, that have found our podcast, but and obviously people that are doing the creative thing know that you just got to go with the flow or you're going to make yourself crazy. Right. And so I was just telling the producer, like, oh, there's a bunch of stuff going on. There's this and that, but I do know one thing, everything will work out. And it does work out. And so I have to know that everything works out the way it's supposed to. Now, and I'm kind of worried. I'm kind of nervous. Huh?
Can I ask you a question? During the filming of your movie, are you shouting Macbeth like crazy? Because if you are, that could be the problem. For those of you who don't know, there's this rule in theater that, what is it? If you're doing Macbeth, you can't say it, or you just can't say Macbeth at all if you're in the theater.
That I don't know. You'll have to ask a theater guy.
Okay, because I think go on.
I've never heard that.
Really?
I've never heard that. Yeah.
It's like if you're doing Macbeth, you can't say the name of the play because something bad will happen. Or if you just at all, you can't say Macbeth while doing a play.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. See, I've never heard about that. Of all the plays that I've ever done, but nobody's, I don't do Shakespeare. So maybe that's like in a Shakespeare thing. But yeah, no, that's interesting though. Maybe when we have a theater guy on, we'll ask him. That's a good question. Write that down. So, just all kinds of good stuff going on, and just looking forward to hopefully finishing up in the next week or so of the second Sunday Christian film shoot.
Awesome.
But yeah. So that's, so how was your day?
My day was pretty well. Still doing the rewrites on the third draft of Hillsborough Road. Getting very, very happy with it. Like I said, the second draft came in at about 64 pages, and I think I found a way to add another 20 pages to it. And not
very
just,
cool.
Adding stuff. I mean, cool stuff that I'm going to be happy with that fits in with the vibe. Again, check out the Hillsborough Road promo video on this channel. If you don't know, it's an 80s throwback slasher movie. A lot of fun.
Cool.
But hey, Larry, I know I wanted to talk about one thing, but someone special just walked into the studio. You know who it is?
Oh, really? Who is that?
I think it's Segway Sam.
Segway Sam. It's funny that you should talk about writing your script and I've been actually happy that our next guest is on because he is a writer and he writes books. He's got actually, I believe it's a trilogy. But first, let's all say hello to Thomas Hewlett.
Now,
hi, Thomas.
Hold on. When you told me Thomas Hewlett was going to be on the show, I got a little scared because I thought, he was going to be chasing us around with a chainsaw.
What do you mean?
And he doesn't talk. Leatherface, Thomas Hewlett. I didn't know he could write books.
No, Eric, not Thomas Hewlett. Thomas Hewlett.
Oh, okay. I'm a little more at ease now. All right.
Okay, good. Are you there, Thomas?
Yes, I don't have any chainsaws. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's very good. I'm glad. Actually, as a matter of fact, does that come up at all in any conversations when you meet people?
Only the cool people.
Oh, so Eric, you're cool, man.
Awesome.
Nice. Actually, I must admit that when I was looking at your bio and your website, which actually will be linked in. in the description. Yes, Eric, you know me too well. But I did type in Hewlett, and I thought, oh my God, this is great. He's like Leatherface and stuff. But then I thought, oh wait, no, he's an actual writer, and that has actually done. How many books do you have? 3.
2 are out. 3 will be out. The third one will be out next month.
Okay.
Ooh, this is great. But they're not just books, and you're not just any writer. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Thomas. What kind of writer are you?
Well, I write a series of supernatural noir murder mysteries. So it's a mixture of vampire monster stories and hard-boiled detective style. So like a little Anne Rice, a little Raymond Chandler,
Ooh.
All set in Los Angeles, the city where I grew up.
That's very cool. Now, reading in your bio, you have, so with our podcast, we love to talk to creative people, and obviously where they are now, but what really got them into with you writing. So let's go back just for a little minute and talk about how did you get interested in writing?
I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was a little kid. I had free reign of my family's library, and when I was reading, I was drawn to sci-fi fantasy books. And when they didn't end the way I wanted them to, I would rewrite the endings.
Awesome.
Well, I knew early on this was my my path. But yes.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I did get sidetracked for a long time. It took me a while to get these books out, and they were born out of a very specific time in my life, which is a theme in the books. It's I got lost in many years of drug and alcohol addiction, and getting clean and sober was where these books came from.
Now, would you mind getting more in depth with that? Because we've never had anyone on the show talk about this, and there will be links to like addiction web pages in the description, because after I read your bio, I was really touched and moved by the amazing transformation you've gone through. I mean, if it was longer, I would have got teary-eyed. My eyes did get misty. They were almost to the point of, full-on sobbing, but in an encouraging, oh my God, look what could happen if you straighten out your life kind of way.
Well, yeah. That's why I talk about this very freely. I'm completely open with my past in the hope that someone who is still there will see, just as you said, the amazing things you can do. I mean, I think people who are drawn to addiction tend to be very sensitive and creative types, and they usually have something driving them that they didn't do and they always wanted to do. And when I've seen this 100 times, when they get clean, I mean, the amount of work and productivity and life transformation that unfolds, it's miraculous, literally.
Yeah. So tell us, when did you start drinking and stuff like that, and getting into, I don't want to give away your whole story.
Well, the first part is fairly textbook. I didn't start drinking till I was 16, 17, and from there I didn't get sober until I was in my late 30s. So it's a pretty long run. And it started out, obviously teenager, college years, partying harder than anyone else I knew, which in retrospect should have been a sign. But it's just every decade after that, every year, it just got uglier and uglier and less fun and just harder for everyone in my life. Things just got, progressively worse, like they do with addicts and alcoholics. Until finally I had enough, and I was ready to check out. I was ready to end it all, actually.
Wow.
That was the point for me. And luckily, I reached out for help at a key moment, and I ended up in rehab for a month. And it was there that I got the idea for the first book. And one of my counselors said, you got a second chance. So what's the one thing like you're going to do with your life? You're going to do. And I knew right away, was write and finish this book. I started that night. Like I actually literally started with a fresh notebook in rehab in the cafeteria after all the sessions were done that day and started writing.
Now, your vampire books are not the, sparkly kind from what I'm reading. They're not the emo Anne Rice kind of vampires. From what it seems like, yours are their own genre unto themselves. So let our listeners know the unique twist you have on the vampire genre.
Yeah, they are not sparkly vampires. My take on the vampires is I always love the classic vampires that are actual monsters and killers. But in my books, the vampires are the heroes. They take center stage. And they're, in the books, in this world of 12 Sticks, which is what the series is called, the vampirism comes on like addiction. These guys start blacking out. It gets worse and worse. They don't know what's going on. They try to kill it and tamp it down with booze and drugs, but they keep waking up like progressively worse situations. Like they don't just lose time. They wake up with dead bodies around them and they have no idea what's going on until someone, if they survive, another vampire tells them the truth. You're not crazy, you're dead.
Kind of like a sire that would happen. And did you ever play Vampire the Masquerade as a kid?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, and that was basically D&D, but with vampires. And they would, your character would have a sire, kind of like, the person who brought you over. So kind of someone like that who would, like a Jedi Master kind of a thing.
Yeah, in the book, the premise is that Alcoholics Anonymous was actually started by a vampire. And they used it to reach out to each other and help each other survive the blood addiction. They're blood drinkers, basically. And the whole human side of AA is just a cover for them.
I love plays on history like that, like with Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, kind of something similar to that.
Yeah. Alternate secret histories. I'm drawn to that too.
Yeah, I love that.
That's very cool. Now, I do know that we communicated earlier, maybe about a week ago. And did you have anything like that you'd like to read, like an excerpt?
I did. I picked a passage from the first scene, which is the crime scene. The book opens up with it.
Excellent. Man, you've got me like so stoked on what you're talking about, because for people, and just really, I gotta throw this out there, that people who are kind of semi-interested, because I like a good vampire flick and I like all that stuff, but something like this, what you're talking about, is just it's just enough to me out of the ordinary that I'm listening to it going, how is this possible? That's genius about turning the AA as a cover, and then it just kind of grows into AA, but the real underlying thing. So I just have to throw that out there. That's just like totally cool. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's see. So in this scene, Jack Strayhorn, who is the vampire detective main character, he's come to the crime scene, and he has a contact on the LAPD, Detective Dempsey, who calls him in all the time. And the guy doesn't know what Jack's story is. He just knows that this guy closes cases, he gets stuff done. I don't quite know how he works, but he gets results. So he's willing to work with him.
Look, Jack, while you're here, why don't you look around? Tell me what you think. Dempsey doesn't make eye contact. I make him uncomfortable. He doesn't trust me and doesn't understand how I work. He just knows that when I show up to a murder, it gets solved. Humans think they know what vampires are. They're angst-filled, beautiful boys who love nothing more than to brood over virginal young girls. I saw that movie and laughed my ass off. If humans knew the truth about us, they'd hunt us all down and wipe us out. Because we're all around you. We're your neighbor, your coworker, your favorite barista, and we're always right on the edge of losing control. We let our guard down for a second and we turn into cold-blooded psychopaths who hunt down our prey with no remorse and no human feelings, only a need to satisfy an ancient, insatiable hunger. In real life, that shiny boy vampire would have slashed his girl's throat with his teeth, drained her blood, and torn her apart into tiny bloody pieces. Have you ever seen what a coyote can do to a kitten? You'd be lucky if you found enough of her to bury. All right, detective, I mutter. I can spare 5 minutes, I guess. He nods and walks away. Each vampire has his own specialty, and mine is blood. I am a connoisseur of blood. I can smell all the different notes in your blood and see your death in the air around your body. And once I catch his scent, I can track your killer down like a hellhound. But it's a narrow line I walk, and I'm always in danger of losing myself in the hunger and the thirst. The blood tells me its secrets, but it's relentless in its call to feed. I know what you're thinking. It's torture, so why do I do it? You could call it penance for the sins of my first life. You could call it a search for atonement. Or you could just call it same shit, different day.
Wow.
Oh,
man.
Actually, I would be, in those old black and white movies, people just kind of listen, and all of a sudden the guy stands up and he starts clapping really and looking around going, yeah. That's me right now.
My jaw was on the floor doing that. Dude, it reminded me. Are you a gamer at all?
Oh, no, I'm not.
Oh, because it felt like a scene out of the game L.A. Noire during the investigation stuff.
Oh,
Man.
Yeah. My brother plays that. I love that. The whole noir detective voice, that world-weary detective. Huge influence on this book.
I think you said it right with Raymond Chandler. And shout out to you for knowing Forever Night. Not a lot of people know that awesome TV show and the super depressing ending. If you're the people who created Forever Night are listening to this, I think I speak for all three of us when I say, screw you.
Man. I do have to say that, you captured the noir thing and the way that you write, that's the thing. You captured a whole genre with words and not the visual, but it's there. I mean, it's like you're like a screenwriter, I think, because good screenwriters, they write a script, but it's so visual in how they put it, right?
Yeah.
But what you just read to us is so visual. I could just see it happening.
Totally.
And It's just, man, I got to tell you, Thomas, you are super, super blessed and super, super talented.
Now,
that's it.
Was that from the new upcoming book or from one of the older ones?
That was from the first scene of the first book.
Oh, okay. And what time period are your books set in?
They're contemporary with Jack is actually from 1940s Los Angeles. He was killed during while he was investigating the Black Dahlia murders. So we do get bits and flashes here and then of old LA, because he's just come back after like a 60-year absence.
Oh man!
This city is obviously a completely different universe at this point.
So you're getting a little bit of a fish out of water thing with him trying to adapt to the new Los Angeles kind of a thing, or no?
I thought originally he would kind of have that voice, but when I started writing him, he became more of a kind of a running commentator on the city. Like he's almost like this lingering conscious of the city, because he's able to see things now. And LA has this habit of, we're amnesiacs out here. People don't really remember last generation. And he's kind of there to say like, I see through the facade. I know what the city's really like. I know how it used to be, so he kind of comes in as this Greek chorus almost.
Yeah, that's what I was getting from him. From what you described him, it sounds like the opening scene to Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the way you described him, that's exactly what popped in my head.
Nice. a much darker Manhattan.
Oh yeah, much darker.
I always wonder this because obviously you make writing books look easy. And I say that, in a way where looking on the outside and listening to it, how it just rolls off your tongue as you read it and you make it seem so seamless. What do you do when you first sit down to write? So your first book obviously just came out of where you were, but going into your second book, let me ask you this. First of all, when you did your first book, did you know that you were going to do 2 more for a series?
Oh, well, the series is actually planned 13. So it's called 12
Ooh.
And because it's a play on AA and support, it's 12 states.
Okay.
12
That's
steps.
what I was thinking when I read the web.
Wow.
Yeah, so there were going to be 12 books, and then 13th in nod to the 13th step in the program.
And what is that, may I ask?
Depending on who you ask, the 13th step is it's kind of a joke. It's because you could go either way when you're done with the 12 steps. Like, are you going to go out and go back to your old life and start messing around again, or are you going to go forward? So the 13th step is what comes next.
Oh, okay.
How long did it take you? And do you do like a master plan of all your books, or do you go one by one and let it build on the next?
I have a very vague outline for the whole series. Like, I know where I want it to go, and I have found that book by book, it helps to do a microcosm of that. Like, I found that a loose outline for the books work well because it still leaves room for surprises, but it keeps me pointed in a general direction. So every book I kind of has its own drama, but it also ties into the overarching storyline.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Cool.
so I am definitely going to be purchasing the first book very soon. Let's talk for a little bit, all 3 of us now, about the state of vampires in fiction. Where do you think it is right now? Personally, I think we're at a very, very mainstream-wise at a low point. And I do think Twilight really hurt the vampire genre in a huge, huge way. True Blood didn't help very much. But it sounds like, we all dig the same kind of vampires, the Lost Boys, Near Dark,
Yeah.
the awesome stuff from 30 Days of Night. I really enjoyed that one. Where do you see it as right now?
I think right now they have been defanged. They're kind of an underutilized resource, and we're headed into superhero comic book series. And I think the vampires I don't think anyone knows what to do with them, because I think we've overused this whole idea of vampires as these, immortal, sexy guys who are just so stylish and cultured and serious and formal. I think all that
sobs.
I can't stand that kind of vampire. Either that or they're obviously Twilight. The sparkly vampire thing. Twilight was a double-edged sword, because I think I like that Stephanie Meyer brought vampires into the light, so to speak, and created a whole audience for them. But I also think it hurt the vampire in that these were like vegetarian vampires who never first anything. So that you're taking the monster out of the monsters, man. Come on.
And wouldn't you agree that, like with your books, when horror in general is done right, it's not really about the horror, the killing. Like Halloween isn't really about, it's about Michael Myers killing people, but it's really about white flight. People moving to the suburbs thinking, hey, we're safe now from all the not white people. We're going to be good in this suburban neighborhood. No, Michael Myers is there. And the vampire, when it's done really, really well, like Louis in Interview with a Vampire, he shows to me someone being addicted. Or the David Bowie movie, what was it called? Where him and the lady were vampires, but they never said it. Oh. The Hunger. The Hunger.
Hunger.
So would you say that when, like what you're doing, it's more the blood is just an allegory for addiction in general, and that's what's missing today?
Oh, no, definitely. I think you're right. Horror has always had a message about it. I mean, it plays on people's fears. That's the whole point. Like for me, yeah, I saw a parallel between blood drinking and actual addicts and alcoholics. But I wanted to make the vampire the hero because I think that's what happens to addicts in recovery. Like you take this monster demon inside of you and you use it for something good. Like you become the hero, the monster becomes the hero. And I thought to me, that's exciting. But I think like vampires in general, Bram Stoker actually sowed the seeds of their own destruction from the beginning. And it was a product of its time. And we got to get past that. Because in Dracula, the horror was all about this straight-laced Victorian society gets invaded by this bloody chaos. And by the end of the story, all the heroes have to put the status quo back together. And so, normalcy wins in the end. Order wins over chaos. And we're past that. We don't live in that kind of time anymore. Like,
exactly.
We live in chaos already. So we got to use that as a starting point. And there's some deep, dark fears in there that the vampire and all the other monsters embody. But yeah, you got to say something. What's the fear? What's the underlying message?
Yeah, and let's be honest. I think the whole AIDS thing kind of hurt vampires a lot too. The whole thing of blood and stuff like that. Because, like, think about the Hammer horror films in the 60s and 70s. Vampires were one of the go-to genres. Yeah. And like you were saying, nowadays they've been defanged. Hashtag defanged. We started it, and we own it. Okay. But what are some of your favorite like vampire movies?
Okay, I'm gonna throw this out there, and don't judge me because it came at a very questionable time in my life. One of my favorite vampire movies is The Lost Boys.
Awesome, love Lost Boys.
Nice. Yeah.
People crack up when I say that, but like if you take in terms of classic vampires, like that had it all.
Oh yeah.
These guys were monsters, but they were young and sexy, and it was fun and like silly, but also very cool and well done. And it was, great.
I didn't get the whole thing of the title Lost Boys till about 7 years ago. It was like, oh, Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, they don't grow old. That's what it means.
Yeah, they'd be like, oh my God, that's brilliant.
What about oh man, what was the Fright Night? That's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah,
Fright Night.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Then what did you think of True Blood?
I read the books and I really liked them. I thought the series kind of got lost in its own narrative, but the
books
show
weren't called
very
True Blood, right?
The books were called the Suki Stackhouse Mysteries, I believe.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember, but yeah, the show was really show was disappointing. Because vampire shows tend to get soap opera way too easily, way too quickly.
Yeah.
Like the Vampire Diaries. I don't know. The soap opera gets too much.
I've got a funny story about that. My youngest sister Amanda and my middle sister Nancy were both really into that show. And my youngest sister Amanda, her husband was like, hey, do you want to go out? And it was daytime. And for some reason, she said, I can't go out. I don't have my sun ring. Now, Larry, on the show, the vampires have to wear a special ring to walk out in the sun.
Oh my God!
So I could say it. But the one thing about that show, one of my heroes, Kevin Williamson, created it. Mm-hmm. So for that alone, I want to check it out.
I want to check out the spinoff. I heard that was pretty good. The
The
original.
originals?
Check that out.
Yeah.
I
So
haven't
do
seen.
you see yourself only working in vampire books, or do you want to spread out into other forms of horror literature?
I do. I have 2 other series planned after this one. I'll probably start mixing them up at the same time when I get a little further into 12 states. But I did actually write a first draft for the first book in a new series. Um, it's kind of an far future steampunky kind of thing, but everything I do has that same noir sensibility. That's really what appeals to me. And the outcasts, the monsters, the alternate stories, those are the things I'm drawn to.
I think that goes for a lot of people who are drawn into anything that's not mainstream culture wise. We all feel like outsiders, so we join the club of outsiders, whether it be being really into gothic stuff. Like I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. Not a lot of people dig that. Heavy metal. There's always a club for the outcast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think that's where a lot of these characters, these tropes come from. Like if you think of the vampires and the werewolves, the people at the edges of society who don't belong, don't fit in, but they make the best observers of society in most cases. And I think there's an appeal to that for me and for a lot of readers.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. Yes.
Let me ask you a quick question. When you write, and obviously you're in your third book, and once you get to a point, or do you ever get to a point, and this may be a crazy question, but do you write it for you or do you write it for other people? Because obviously now you've got a fan base, and do you ever think about that fan base, or do you write it purely just for you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think the classic notion of the writer just writing for themselves is actually dangerous. I've never really agreed with that. I think it tends to I can understand the part about artistic vision and not compromising on that, but books are dead without readers. And so I don't think of it as writing for readers or writing for fans. I think of it as writing for the characters, and the characters are a celebration of everything that the reader, and I'm a reader too, everything that we love in this genre. And so I think of myself as an advocate for that rather than, I'm writing to it or for it or something. I just like, let's celebrate it. Let's all have fun in there. Let's build a world where we can all get lost. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man. But ultimately that's spoken like a true, because you let it speak to you as opposed to you speaking to it. And you let the story dictate to where you go. And obviously you have a faith in your writing and where you are, that the people, the people that follow you, your fans or your fan base, whatever you want to call it, will follow along with you. And that's good. That's very good to hear. That's very good.
Yeah.
How do you deal with, huh? Oh, I was going to say, how do you deal with writer's block?
You have to accept the reality that writer's block doesn't exist.
Ooh, okay, go on.
Ooh.
This is an illusion we have created when the story is trying to tell something new and we don't know what it is. Now, it's like you can sit at that crossroads and tell yourself you're a writer's block, or you can sit and say, okay, what is right about this story that I'm not seeing right now? Okay. It went off the outline. It's not where I wanted to go, but it's trying to tell you something. You just can't accept it. So ditch the ego, and writer's block is an ego salve. I'm just going to say it. Once you realize it doesn't exist, though, open up the writing, and suddenly you're moving.
That's awesome. That goes along with something I really believe in, and it's never write the story you want to tell. Write the story that wants to be told.
Yes.
Because there's been times when there was a script that I was trying to write, and I will eventually, but nothing would happen with it. It just wouldn't get past I do a lot of outlining. I do a pen and paper outline, an index card outline, one more pen and paper outline, then I start writing the script. Too much. And this one thing would not get past the paper and pen outline. Then I started working on Hillsborough Road, my slasher movie. And what's really fun, I know hope you'll get this too, when characters start doing stuff you didn't want them to do, that's when the magic happens. It's like, wait, no, I want that character to live, but they died? Why?
Yeah.
So you concur to that.
Yeah. But see, like when you had trouble on the first story, you didn't go, oh my God, I got writer's block. You just went and wrote something else. You know, it's like, really?
Yeah, but when you do have that time when you can't come up with something, it's the most painful experience you'll ever have in your life. Because it's like, I think it was the guy who wrote The Great Gatsby.
F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I remember I heard a story about him once that a friend saw him in his house laying on the floor with his typewriter, and his friend asked him, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And he was basically talking about writer's block. Well, I only got a very little bit of work done today. Well, how much did you get done? 3 words. Well, hey, that's good. And his response was, yeah, but I don't know what order they go in.
So having said that, and I have no idea how this correlates, but having said that, what is the hardest part of your book, of your series you've had to write? Number one, that was okay, let me ask you this first, because I'm thinking this as I plan out in my head, but have you written anything that's too personal and you thought twice about putting it in your books?
Yeah, and I did, and I ended up putting it in there anyway. But instead of letting it define the story, which was my fear, I just let the story draw energy and inspiration from it. So if you're adverse to pain, you should not be a writer. Because, but the pain is part of the process because it opens you up, and like you got to let things out. Everything in your life is going to inspire and infect your writing. Like that's the way it should work. So if you get uncomfortable with that kind of stuff, you're in the wrong business. But if you're willing to get some good stuff out of it, I had a lot of personal family stuff come out into the writing because there's 4 main characters in my series, and one of them, this fairy, the fairies in my story are the guys who make the drugs, the magical drugs. They're like the drug dealing cartel families, basically.
I take my money.
So he's like the black sheep of the family, and I was having my own family issues, and it started like melding. And once I realized that's where it was coming from, I just let it go, and like it took the story to places because it was real. Like there's some real emotional stuff in there, and like it doesn't matter if you're writing about vampires or aliens. Like you're writing about humans, and you got to use your own emotional baggage, for lack of a better word, in the writing. That's what anchors it in reality. It makes it gets it to guts.
It all gets down to the human condition that we're trying to touch on, whether it's something as silly as the horror genre or as deep as a Nicholas Sparks novel. No, I'm kidding, but
well, no, oddly you say that, but writers or creative people in general, whether you're an artist, like you do paint, you do acting, writing, directing, anything, I think you have to, and you just hit the nail right on the head when you spoke to me what you just said, all that truth about if you don't want pain, you shouldn't really be in the creative anything, because that is part of the process. And And I mean, there's stuff like right now, just listening to, I'm thinking about all my stuff going, whoa, this is deep, man. But you're so right. As much as it hurts, right? Sometimes that's the way it is. But out of that comes this beautiful thing. And, I mean, that, you just summed up the whole creative, what people go through, day in, day out. Trying to create and trying to make a living and trying to participate in a world that, wants you to make all this money as fast as you can and to spend it on everything that you see around you. But as an artist, you can't really think like that because, it takes time and there's a process to get to be in a place where, you have all these earthly possessions, world possessions, whatever money can buy, right? But and obviously it goes deeper than that. But there's things and sacrifices that we all have to make for our art.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part. Wow, man, you are just, Thomas, you are full of inspiration and just the stuff, man. That's, yeah. Wow.
And
wow.
You know what, guys?
Thank you.
I think we've hit our hour mark with the podcast, and we just want to thank you again, Thomas, for coming on. It has been an incredible time to do this. We are banking all of our episodes now, so if this goes up and a celebrity, this sounds silly, if a celebrity passed away or a tragic world event happened and we didn't mention it, it's because we recorded this in the past. So, everyone who's listening to this, have a happy and awesome weekend or week. Larry, you want to close us out too?
Sure. I I can't say thank you enough, Thomas, for first of all being on our show and sharing your creative life with us and your personal life. And I would love to put it out there. I'd love to have you again. Come back on when your third book is out, within a month or two, whatever it may be. And let's do this again. This was fun.
Oh, and thanks for having me. This was fun. I love it.
And
thank you very much.
Have an awesome time, everybody.